What's up everyone, Cousin Bobby here with another Arc Raiders guide. Today, I'm going to be talking about optimizing your solo loot runs in the Buried City map. The loot runs that I'm going over today typically are quick runs that average about 5 minutes and are designed to build up your credits with a chance of finding rare items as quickly as possible. Out of all the runs I did over the course of an evening, I was able to bring in around 27 to 60k in credits per run. This is a great way to solo farm, finding rare materials, blueprints, and building up the 5 million in credits that are needed to unlock the 5 skill points once expeditions go live. Before we get into the details, if you are enjoying the channel's content, feel free to subscribe to the channel and like this video as it helps support the channel as we continue to grow. Thanks again for the support. Now let's get into the details around the strategy and routes needed for these quick loot runs on the Buried City map. Before jumping into the raid, you'll want to pick your loadout. For these runs, I typically use the green or blue looting augment to get more inventory space. I personally prefer the blue looting augment as it also has additional slots for trinkets. You can also use free loadouts as you don't need to worry about losing items when looting, but your returns will potentially be lower due to having limited inventory space. I typically bring 2 weapons, a Pharaoh and Stitcher. One for Arc if needed and the other for possible PvP. I like these weapons because they are easy to craft or buy and losing them does not set you back too much. Next, let's talk about the types of items that you'll be looting. Typically, it's the following: any green, blue, purple, or yellow weapons, weapon mods, or explosives. Additionally, any blue or purple crafting item that is labeled with a wrench icon. These are already worth a couple thousand credits each, and you can stack them to easily multiply the value. Next up is trinkets of all rarities. They are labeled with a diamond icon. Most have a base value of 1,000 credits, but you can stack these to quickly multiply the value. For example, each rubber duck is worth 1,000 credits, and you can stack up to 10 per slot. So a single slot can carry up to 10,000 credits. All other items I tend to ignore unless I have joined a raid late. You'll also want to check and make sure that this is a fresh run, rather than joining a raid late, as many of the spots and items will be looted if you join 5 to 10 minutes late. If you join a raid late, grab as many items regardless of rarity around you and leave at the nearest extract to reset. Now let's talk about the flow of the loot runs. I've created a high-level map to show the various spawn points, routes, and points of interest you can focus on. The red circles are where I spawned throughout the period I was testing out these runs. The red X's indicate the locations of high-tier loot drops and possible weapon cases, backpacks, and lockers, as they seemed to have the highest chances of ideal drops. The yellow arrows are the possible routes and how you should pre-plan moving from location to location in order to optimize for time. During a raid, things may happen that cause you to divert your intended path, but knowing the general locations of points of interest are good to quickly pivot when needed. I usually focused on 2 to 3 locations per run or until my inventory was full before heading to the extraction site, so each run typically lasted for only 5 to 7 minutes, which limited exposure to possible PvP. Now that we got the basics down, let me show you some of the loot runs that I did that helped me pull in over 500,000 credits. In the first raid, I spawned near Piazza Arbusto. The first thing I did was check the timer and the map to plan out my route. I typically go to the pharmacy here as there is a decent amount of loot and a high chance of trinkets. Don't forget to check the tower, as sometimes a weapon case, ammo case, or medical supplies might spawn. On the first floor, I found an ammo case, and I also found a couple blue crafting items. On the second floor, I found various weapon attachments in the first set of containers. I also found some blue crafting items and trinkets in the dressers and cabinets. Notice that I'm focused on quickly identifying item type and rarity. I'm not heavily focused on if I can use these items to craft, as I am primarily looking to sell these items for credits. Up next, I head over to the building across the street on the way to the space travel building, as there is a chance for a high value case to spawn in this location. I try not to take too much time checking this area, so I quickly begin heading over to the space travel building. At the space travel building, there is a zip line between the two buildings that you can use to get to the first floor. You'll want to check the trash can in that room, as it seems to have a high chance of dropping blue level loot. Next, you'll want to head over to the other side of the first floor and check all the lockers. I've been able to get decent loot drops at this spot, so it's consistently on my route rotation. Once you're done looting the first floor, the entrance to the metro station is nearby. You can quickly jump down and head through the parking garage entrance for a quick extract. This run ended up being around 7 minutes in total. Additionally, I grabbed some ammo and other crafting materials that we didn't sell, but we ended up walking away with 35,000 credits. Up next, I spawned in near the Grandioso apartments. I quickly checked the map and timer for this run and also checked which loot spots were nearby. I decided to head to the loot spot closest to me, which was on the top floor of an apartment complex. You'll want to be careful at this location as the door is sealed and you'll need to spend time breaching it. The two spots near this spawn have particularly high PvP, so make sure to listen for footsteps and other raiders. Once you breach the door, there are several filing cabinets, dressers, suitcases, and possible spawned-in backpacks or high-tier loot cases. Make sure to check the room as you don't want to miss any items. I was able to get a couple blue and purple items, trinkets, and some weapons. This room had a lot of loot, and my inventory filled up quickly, so I didn't need to go to a second location on this run. I quickly found the metro station nearby and extracted. This run was under 5 minutes and could have been shorter if we used a raider hatch key. Overall, once I sold everything I wanted to sell, I walked away from this raid making 48,000 credits. The next spawn location was in Piazza, Roma, which is near Marano station. This location seemed to be a good route for both the Marano station and library loot drops. Marano station has a breachable door that has a chance of spawning a cache, and has some decent items that you can loot. A lot of players know about this location, so be on guard for any PvP. I typically would only recommend this loot spot if you spawn close by. I highly recommend breaching the containers as well, as I was able to get both purple and blue crafting materials. Up next, I went over to the library. The library has 3 floors with tons of lockers, desks, and cabinets you can loot. The first and second floor primarily have lockers. They drop a lot of blue crafting materials and high-level trinkets. You can also find some weapons and explosives. Lastly, the third floor has some classrooms and laboratories where you can find cabinets that might drop high-level gear and possible yellow weapon mods like I found on this run. This run lasted close to 7 minutes from its start until I extracted, but I was able to sell all the items I wanted to for a little over 50,000 credits. To wrap things up, these are just a couple of the loot runs that I ran in one session, but incorporating a couple of these runs a day will help you to steadily build up credits over time. This is also a great solo farming strategy, as I've noticed solo lobbies have just a little bit less PvP. I wanted to share the map again with you, as the spawns and routes that I shared earlier on this video are not the only spawns that happened for me. But I hope this map helps you in planning and strategizing for your next raid. Feel free to use this map as a guide next time you're looking to farm loot in Buried City. Another reminder, these routes are designed to be quick runs that should focus on collecting high value loot quickly, so there are limits to PvP and ARC. This doesn't mean you don't have to engage in PvP. If that's your playstyle, go for it. This strategy was primarily designed as a loot farming focused mindset. Remember, if you do a couple loot runs each day, it's a great way to stockpile some credits. I hope this guide and strategy help you next time you're in the wasteland. If you have any preferred routes that work for you, feel free to share them in the comments below to help others on their journey. I'll be looking to make similar guides for other maps in the near future, so be on the lookout. Also, if there are any other guide videos, let's plays, tips and trick videos, or indie game dev videos that you're interested in seeing, feel free to leave a comment below. Thanks again for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, feel free to hit the subscribe button and like the video as it'll help support the channel. Looking forward to catching you in the next one.
Catch me if I fall.